Yes, we are now live, Council. We're going to also do a recording. The stream is going to go as best we can. There is no one at the office for IT to make sure we're up. There's a few concerns we have with the availability of it. With that, I'd like to ask the council that we go ahead and continue, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to ask Councilwoman Gray to give the opening prayer, please, and reading of our deceased Osages.
Thank you. Just a little bit of history for some of our producers here. Historically, when Osages get up and they meet the day, they would often go out as that sun come up and they would bless themselves. They would pray for those in mourning and for our nation, for our people. And they would pray so hard that they would cry. Every morning they would do that. And then when that sun would go down, they would pray. And that's how Osages, we live our life that way. So thank you, Chairman, for honoring me to say this prayer for us. Ndatsi Wakanda Wajinki. Lord, we just give you all the praise and glory for our people. We pray that protection from that virus that is here on earth, that's going all around. It's impacted our people, their lives. We've got some in the hospital. We pray for those families. We've lost some to coronavirus. We pray for those families. We pray for all those who are in mourning right now. We've got plenty. We've got plenty of people that are in mourning. It's difficult. It's difficult not to carry on our ceremonies of putting a loved one away. We also are in, Lord, we just ask you to lift up our Zanzoli people right now.
Yeah.
And our Kwazulu people. June is when we come together, Lord. You bring us all together for that enrichment of who we are, and not who we are, but who we are to you. We are the people, Wajaji. Lord, we just ask that we continue your ways. And at the basis of everything that you've showed us is respect for one another. We're respectful people. And Lord, we just pray all your grace on this meeting today for the leadership, for our shareholders, and for our producers, and our government. Lord, we just give you all the praise and glory. And so now I go to the reading of our deceased Osages shareholders. Penelope Baker, Grove, Oklahoma. Sandra Deal from El Reno, Oklahoma. Johnny B. Niwala from Miller, Missouri. Marlene V. Kinsey from Cape Junction, Oregon. Forrest R. Tracy III from Pleasanton, California. Mary DeWitt from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Sarah Soderstrom, Houston, Texas. William Southall from Cherryville, Kansas. Lord, we ask you to bless these individuals and their families at this time. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to have a roll call, please.
Councilwoman Foreman.
Present.
Councilwoman Gray.
Here.
Councilwoman Harlan.
Here.
Councilman Redcorn. Councilman Red Eagle.
Here.
Councilman Revard.
Present.
Chairman Waller.
Present.
Secretary Yates. We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Council, Mr. Walkman is the first item under new business, item A.
Hey, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to bring to your attention, I think there was a page 2 of the list of deceased.
I thought, yes, sir.
That included Andrew Durand from Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and a Charles Lookout Jr. from
Yes,
Tulsa,
sir.
Oklahoma.
Thank you so much, Council.
Thank you. I didn't see that second page. Thank you.
Wait, we acknowledge, okay. Mr. Walkman, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you for letting us join your meeting today. And Jeff Mike and thank you for taking on the meeting with me.
Yes, Mike. We'll have to speak up today.
What we want to do is go out there and start that well up again and get that lease pump. It's a very low amount of oil it takes. It'll be very expensive to do it. We're going to lose money for the oil price comes back. But we're willing to do that. We could also, we don't feel treated properly. Get it terminated the way it was. The letter was written on April 15th, and it didn't get to my post office box till like May the 8th. I guess it's because the virus, and he wasn't in the office a whole lot, and so something sat on the desk a few weeks before they got me. But anyway, the way it is, we're willing to go start that lease up and get it going. It's got a producer, really good disposal well on the quarter section. We're willing to spend that money and get it going. It's not feasible for us to pay for a new lease and a change in royalty.
We had theft on the lease.
Yes, sir.
We had motors stolen.
So all the electric line, the motor, everything.
It's right off the county road out by the rock crusher.
See where they drug the electric line down the road, but the sheriff wouldn't do anything.
I think under a situation like this, would you be interested in paying a minimal for a 3-year term at 20% for the new lease that will encompass all the other?
We feel like we can go out there and plug them at less cost than what they're trying to get.
Okay. Council, any comments?
Yes, I have one. I'd like to go back over a time frame, which we were fully aware of in our last meeting. The Gopher lease minimum royalty was paid for 2018, and it was paid for 2019. The timing of the minimum royalty was kind of skewed because of when the lease was inspected, but in superintendent's own letter, she tells us that the minimum royalty was met. It was paid, and by the way, we need to back up and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Walkman, but the anniversary for this particular lease is June to June, correct?
Right. That is correct.
So, yes, so in September 2019, you had produced enough oil that you sold out of your tank and met
Yes,
the minimum royalty. But before June, now that was September 2019, but before June 2020, when the anniversary date comes up, your lease was terminated. And it's my understanding.
The letter actually read that it was terminated in July of 19.
Oh, that's right. It was retroactive.
Yeah, it basically.
But they didn't send us the letter we didn't get it until May of
20. Yeah, so the lease said in the letter, we sold, I believe, it was either say it was September. I was thinking it was June, but the letter said it was terminated immediately, like maybe basically 1 month after the sale of oil.
Right. Am I to understand that you never received a show cause letter?
No, ma'am.
So you did not have the opportunity to say, we paid minimum royalty. We had our equipment stolen. So when you did your inspection, that's why it looked like it was not producing.
Right.
And my contention on this whole issue is that the lease was terminated illegally, that it was
bad faith.
Yeah. So, I would support that, that we give you, if we need to give you an e-lease without charging you the extra money, or have the superintendent rescind the termination letter, which I'm not sure how successful we would be at that. But that's what I have to say on this. I don't think your lease was terminated properly.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
We agree with that.
And like Mike has said, we we've already gotten in touch with electric company. We already have the motor waiting for us.
We got all the equipment ready to go.
Box. It's a small producer. I mean, very small. We're lucky to get half a barrel. So we're going to lose money at the current prices, especially with the added cost of the new equipment. We're going to lose money. Long term, we'd like to keep the lease so that we can produce it long term and make money for all of us.
Yes, sir.
But at present, it's just not economical to purchase a new lease, pay a higher royalty. We would be in a deeper hole than we already are in.
That's
Thank you for that
understandable.
explanation.
Councilwoman Gray.
Yes. I pulled up May 3rd, 2019, for the lease. And it says, motion made by Councilman Red Eagle to accept the proposal with a 3/16 royalty, a bonus of $3,600, oil lease only, and a 2-year primary term on that location. And it was seconded by Redcorn. And it passed with a 6-2 vote. So it's a 2-year primary term, and now you're telling me it's a 1-year term?
Original leases were
We don't know.
year to year, what we got from June to June.
This
I
is
think
what
that,
the
I think that lease
resolution,
was drilled in 1950. That those wells were drilled in like 1952.
That's
right,
correct.
I understand that part, but I'm talking about last May, a year ago, that
Before you're
you had a
discussing
2-year
a
primary
different lease,
term. Pardon me?
is this regarding a different lease?
Is this, well, I'm just telling you, I don't know which one this one is. It just says Walkman new lease proposal
Yeah,
by
that was
Councilman
for,
Red Eagle.
Different.
yes, that was for the Matthews and Myers. Those were new leases we were taking up, we were purchasing.
Okay, so what you're telling me that if you have, I looked all last through this thing. I didn't see a new, if it's a year-to-year lease. This is the only one I found until we had this one come up at the last meeting,
Yeah, so
which
that was,
had, I'm sorry, if I can finish, then
okay.
you can answer. So what it's caused us to do, this has caused a big brouhaha, not only for our shareholders, for our council, to answer these questions, because we want to get all the information. We tabled this on May 20th. So we would have all the information before us. And then another council member brought it back up and it failed. And because it failed, they put it all over Facebook and had all of our, like we were praying this morning, had all of our shareholders all upset over this. And so it's caused, it's kind of left a stain on how we're moving forward. But what we want to do is have all the information before us before we do this. And I didn't feel like we had it. We've got some responses back from the superintendent. I sent a letter requesting production report, so hopefully we'll be able to get there. But if you knew that this was your did you say your motor was removed?
They stole all the electric line that ran the motor.
Right.
Just the motor, they took the switch box that runs the motor.
And so when did you know this, that happened?
Last year in July, I think.
Okay, so from July to,
Maybe August. I'm not really sure. When we
okay, so
started,
you
it
knew
happened over a
last
weekend.
summer. Huh?
It happened over a weekend when the
Okay.
pumper wasn't there and he notified us. And we found it
Right.
all wrong.
Okay, so my question is, since you knew that time, were you going to get it fixed? Was your plan, did you communicate with the Bureau that, hey, we got this stolen after that report? Here's our timeline to mitigate that issue, as opposed to when we heard it, your motor was stolen last meeting when Mr. Councilman Revard was advocating on your behalf about the loss.
Well,
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
I'd like to have him answer my question, Mr. Walkman.
yes, we were planning on getting the thing, well, at least going again, absolutely. That the timing and the money and stuff, and all of a sudden the price fell down, and then we get notified it's terminated.
Okay.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that answer. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Chairman. First of all, I don't think social media has anything to do with the Walkman issue, or it's actually a Gopher issue. That's nothing that they did, nothing that they've done created any controversy. They are victims here. And I'll tell you something about reporting theft that Miss Gray, Councilwoman Gray just brought up to the superintendent, is that you go to the superintendent and you complain about a surface owner issue or a theft of equipment, they'll tell you to go down to the street to the district court or go to the sheriff. They'll have nothing to do with it. And if there was stolen oil, that's a different matter.
Yes, sir.
So the superintendent doesn't have anything to do. It's not like if a producer has something stolen, they don't go run tell Robin Phillips that, oh my gosh, somebody stole my electric motor. It's just not the way it's done. And then another point I want to make is that we did have all the necessary information to make a decision on this that we're going to do again today. We had everything we needed. We had the production history. We knew the date of the lease. You've got the lease mixed up with another one. That's understandable. But this lease has been producing for 68 years. It's a 1952 lease for 68 years. It had met its minimum royalty. The superintendent didn't give them a show cause letter. The only letter they got was plug your wells. We're terminating your lease without knowing any details. So I, for one vote, I, for one, would like to grant a new oil lease only to Gopher Oil Company, whoever they are. I don't know them. I know that the Walkmans represent them in some fashion.
Yes, sir.
That's why they're here today. But I suggest we give them a new lease. Give them a year. Give them a 1-year lease, 0 bonus, same royalty as what it was before, whatever that royalty rate was. And that's my comments on it. And,
Yes, sir.
And that's my recommendation.
Is that in form of a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make that a form of the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Yes, I have a motion on the
Chairman,
floor.
I've had my hand up for the last 10 minutes. Can I be recognized?
Yes, you can. Discussion.
I had my hand up too.
So, my question is, are there other leases that are on a year-to-year? And I'm asking the chairman this question.
No, we had made the resolution that on all new leases that we have are at 20% and 3-year primary terms.
So can we as council members assume that this is a lease that is still out there on some old resolution where it's just year-to-year? Is that correct?
No, I don't believe so, no.
Okay, so if the council will just hold on a minute, let me ask my questions. So my question is, Mr. Walkman is saying this is a year-to-year, it would have expired in June. And somehow it makes it sound like what he's saying to us is that it automatically renews. So my concern is that we don't allow any leases of this nature anymore. We don't allow just this rollover every year.
Well,
Mr.
if
Rivard,
the
I
lease-
did not interrupt you not once. So
If the lease is in production,
I didn't interrupt you at all, Mr. Walkman. Let me finish, please. So what I'm asking is, if there's a lease term on this lease, did it expire on its own, and does a new lease need to be done? If not,
Yes.
I don't have a problem with renewing it, but let's do everything
Held by
consistently.
Yeah. 3 years.
Held by production.
Chairman, I had my hand up.
I'd like to
What
go
is the
to,
answer?
are you done, ma'am?
Well,
like I said, I'm willing to get it in production in the next few days.
That's all I need to hear.
Okay.
Councilman Red Eagle.
I didn't get an answer to my question.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I didn't get an
Councilman.
answer to my question.
What is the question, ma'am?
My question is this always going to be a year to year? Is the council not going to require this lease to be consistent with our other leases?
That's fine. We'll have it in production full time.
Mr. Chairman, I'm asking you.
Yes,
Okay.
that's why I offered the negotiation, the 3-year term at 20. Councilman Revard and then Councilman Red Eagle.
Thank you. I'd like to have a comment on Councilwoman Harlan's question. The leases, the old leases and our current leases have a primary term. You have to, if you don't drill a well and hold the lease by commercial production in the first year of that primary term,
Correct.
you pay what's called a delay rental. And in this case, an oil lease only delay rental is $1 an acre. So you pay a $1 an acre to give you another year to get it into production. In the event after the primary term, it'll be in production. Otherwise, the lease would terminate. After the primary term, as long as it's producing that $1 an acre minimum royalty to the Bureau of Indian Affairs that's distributed to the head right owners, that lease is considered in full force and effect, and it's met the requirement of the minimum royalty. So it automatically renews every year with the payment of the minimum royalty of $1 an acre, which this company has met. And our new leases still have the same year anniversary delayed rental minimum royalty requirement, and that is on the anniversary of the approval date of the superintendent's approval of that lease. In this case, it was 1952 or so in June. So every June, they look at the year previous to make sure that the royalty owners got at least $160 that year. If they did, that lease is in force in effect. And what's happened here is that the superintendent has terminated this lease. And I don't know that she can unterminate it. So the simplest, cleanest way to make the slate clean again is give them another lease under the same terms, maybe shorten the primary term to 1 year, and then every year, as long as they meet their minimum royalty, that lease stays in force in effect, and nothing's really changed. I think that's the cleanest way to do this. It doesn't involve the superintendent. It just gives them basically gives them their lease back, just like it was if she hadn't taken it away.
Yes, sir.
And that's my suggestion and my explanation to Councilwoman Harlan as to how the old leases work, and they're no different than the new leases we have today. Even though the form is a little different, but in the regard of the delay rental requirement in the minimum royalty requirement, that has remained the same. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Red Eagle.
Thank you, Chairman. I had my hand up for about 10 minutes now.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry for the delay.
Watman family, I went to school with Mike years ago, you know, and they've been around here a long time. His dad was a oil man for a long time. I believe he was either a geologist or an oil engineer.
Engineer.
Yes, sir, engineer. And I think Mr. Schroeder was a geologist. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, they've been around a long time, and I think we're just like we always do. We're beating the dead horse to death. We need to just go on with this and put it behind us like water under the bridge, the old timers used to say, you know, forget about it and go on. You know, it's forward. We need to go forward and vote on this, and I suggest we vote on it this time. Thank you.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman.
Councilwoman Foreman.
I call for the question.
Yes.
I need the royalty rate read into record.
Yes, we will need to put the royalty rate as I requested, and then in this resolution, Councilman Revard.
My resolution was to keep the royalty, whatever it is, prior to it being terminated.
Right, I need a number.
We need a number, sir, to put in.
Okay, Mr. Watman,
Yes,
can
sir.
you tell me what the royalty rate is of this particular lease?
1/8.
1/8 royalty. So my
Yes, sir.
resolution is to grant them a 1/8 royalty lease for a primary term of 1 year, effective upon the approval of the superintendent for no bonus.
Mr. Walkman.
Yes. So in regard to meeting minimum royalty, as long as we meet the minimum royalty every year, it stays in good standing. Because with this such a small producer, you know, you're not selling every month. You know, once you have a full load, then we can have Coffeyville pick it up and sell it. I just didn't know what the terms are on that. Is there, you have to sell every so many months, or do you just have to make sure you at least meet the minimum royalty?
Chairman, could I respond?
Yes.
Yes, we would use the same form that we're using today with all our new leases. And it does have that language in there that it would renew every year on the anniversary date of the lease, provided that the minimum royalty had been received in a timely manner prior to the anniversary of the approval date of the lease. So yes, you wouldn't have to have sales every month as long as you are producing it consistently and you had produced enough income that the royalty met the minimum $1 an acre
Requirement.
Well, that benefits everybody. We hope it's more than the minimum royalty. That helps the shareholders. It helps our partner Gopher. So we hope it's more than that. But we can actually absolutely make sure it does meet that every year.
Councilwoman Harlan. Councilwoman.
We call for the question, I believe.
She's got a question.
We can't hear her.
Just a quick question of clarification on Councilman Rivard's motion. Is this next year, will we be looking at renegotiating, or is this just gonna stay this way forever?
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman Harlan. It would be, they would not have to come before us anymore. It's not something that we would have to renew. By just the terms of our lease, the language in our lease, it will automatically renew every year without any action on the mineral council's part. If they've met their minimum royalty and they're producing the well, that is all that's required to have the lease stay in force and effect for one more anniversary of the primary term.
Thank you.
Of the lease.
Call for the question.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes, and good luck.
Councilwoman Gray,
I'm gonna abstain.
Councilwoman Harlan,
No.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rivard,
Yes.
Chairman Waller.
Yes, and Michael, you say you're gonna put that motor on next week?
I'll get it in production in the next 7 to 10 days.
Then I
Got
vote,
all the equipment found.
then I vote yes.
Motion passes.
Motion is passed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all very much.
We're sorry for the delay.
That's okay. And one last comment. I did see the stuff on Facebook with fiscal responsibility. Neither one of us are Facebook people. We're not members of that organization, but it was brought to my attention, and I'm sorry you guys had to go through that. We were not trying to cause chaos. I
Don't worry
appreciate
about
their
it.
I appreciate their support, but that was not us. We were just trying to deal with you guys and get back in production and move on. So
That's our job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate you all.
Chairman?
Thank you for your time.
Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to just say something is that, so we're just approving what happened. What happens to what the letter that, that the superintendent sent? Because it didn't say rescind in our motion. It didn't say, basically Paul just renegotiated their lease for them. So I'm just wondering, what happens to the letter at the superintendent and how do we respond back to them?
It will be mute after she signs the new lease, and it alleviates all of that last element.
Okay.
And we've done this before. I would just wanted to wait until I hear the person who operates the lease to tell me when it's coming on production. And I've just been here a long time. You have to keep this up, whether it's a half a barrel or 100 barrels a day. And I appreciate you all. I'd like to go on to Greenco.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, as I previously had advised you, I need to step away for about 30 minutes and then I'll join the meeting again.
yes, ma'am. Council, I'd like to go on to Renco Energy, Mr. Fox.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
I don't know if my picture's up there or not because that's my first experience with the Zoom program, and I'm not sure that I hooked it in correctly.
We just need you to speak with our council and we'll go from there. What is your request?
We had received a termination notice in, we actually received it in May, and the lease had been, apparently had been, the termination said it had been terminated in September. We received the notice in May, and we had been back on the lease, putting it back up again. What happened is we were involved in a situation where we had invested some money with a company. It turned out to be a Ponzi scheme along with several hundred other people. And so the investment money that we had in there was lost. It's being, they were supposed to have a hearing for these people, but, or a trial, I should say. They've been charged. But what happened was they, with the coronavirus, the courthouses have been closed here for the last couple of months. It was supposed to schedule for May, so I don't know what's going to happen. It'll probably be scheduled for sometime at the end of the year or maybe next year.
Council? Does anyone have any questions?
Hold on.
When would you expect the actual?
Tanks filled them up, the fuel's all there. Some motors, repairs and everything else on them, but it's then we got the notice and we had to stop working on there. I still have somebody going out there and checking them every day because we've got new equipment there and we didn't want anybody running away with it. So the pumper is still going out every day, keeping an eye on it. So what we wanted to do, if possible, is to either to take a new lease or renew the lease under the same terms as it was before. There's 3 leases, 3 quarter sections. And we're, like I said, we have them pumping in. The first one's good with pumping in a matter of it. We just have to turn them on, actually.
That was going to be my first question. The other is anytime you're in a court receivership, the court usually puts in an operator. Are you that operator?
No, no, this isn't a court order. This was just, this wasn't we're not, this company was not in receivership. The people, the money that, the people that where we had the money invested, the base finance.
I had to ask.
Sorry?
I had to ask. Thank you. Council, any other questions?
I wasn't sure anyone.
Yes, we would like to respectfully have you brought that back to us. And what's the production on these leases?
When at one time when they were doing a bit more, but right now they're about 2.5, 3 barrels per day. If we keep them treated properly. And
Yes.
we just did a chemical treatment on them, just not on a couple of them just down. We just the injection well, we've treated it already before we got the notice. And but they'll do between the 3, there's 7 wells on there. We'll get about 17 to 20 barrels a day off of them.
Councilman Rivard.
Councilman Rivard.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a question. Did y'all receive a show cause letter from the superintendent asking why the lease wasn't producing?
No, the only thing that we got was the termination notice. We weren't aware that there was anything in there.
Well, I don't think we did either. Chairman, are you aware whether or not we received a notice that these wells were going to be demanded to be plugged from the superintendent?
Not that I can remember. Also, that's why I had to ask Mr. Fox that other question. Usually we receive that, and especially in this case, there's a couple other efforts there. I have not.
Okay, Mr. Fox, you said 3 barrels a day. Is that an average per well, or is that the whole entire lease? 3 barrels
No,
per
per well they run about 3 barrels. They do about approximately 20 barrels a day. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes less, depends on the treatment and so forth.
So so within what time period do you think, how many producing wells do you have that you anticipate putting back in production?
7.
7? And you're
Between the
thinking
three
those
leases.
7 will do 20 or so barrels a day?
Yeah, they may do a little bit more at first because they've been down for a while, and we just treated them with the chemical treatment and cleanup. They may flush a little bit more in the beginning, but that's about what they'll settle in at.
And what was the reason they weren't producing that allowed them to be terminated?
What happened was we were involved with had money invested in deposit through our finance company. And the finance company, it turned out they were running a Ponzi scheme, and everybody lost their money. So we had all our deposited money in there, so we didn't have any cash to keep going. And then we had somebody contracted to do it, and they didn't do what they were supposed to do on it. And I just got the new people. The people that are there now was the pumper that I had going back a number of years before the problem came up. And we just, like I said, we just got back to work on it in this year at the end of January.
Are these leases subject to any current ongoing litigation as we speak?
No. No,
That's all the questions I have right now.
Yes, sir.
The litigation was against the finance people, not against, nothing to do with us. We were one of the people that filed the complaint. So.
But it didn't involve these properties specifically named, like
No.
subject, like maybe collateral as a mortgage or something that might still be in litigation?
Oh, no.
It's froze. Well, actually, the council,
We want to turn them back on again, like right now. The propane tanks are filled up. The wells out there's no electricity out there. We run them on propane. So we've set new tanks. They're all full and ready to go. And the first wells can be turned on within a matter of 2 days.
I think we could offer you the same as we just got through with the Gopher Oil Company. What we'd like to do is tell you that under the situation, we would look at asking for a minimum to do a new lease, a 3-year term at the same royalty. What do you think about that, Mr. Fox?
How much, what's the minimum on that?
On just the oil?
Is it
No,
oil
we're gonna
or
do-
combination?
Yeah, we're actually planning on drilling a well down there. We found a gas high down on that Carlock lease. We're planning on drilling that, so there will be a gas.
4750, isn't it?
That sounds right.
Yeah, approximately 4750, 4,750 on the minimum.
Per
For,
lease.
per lease,
Per lease.
47.
May I
Councilman
say-
Foreman.
This is another incident where the superintendent she violated her own policy where she did not send the producer a show cause letter, so they had an opportunity to explain why they were in the situation they were in, and then she went and terminated the leases. So I don't think it was illegal, I don't think it was a proper termination. I think we should issue a new lease at the same royalty, but I'm not sure we should charge a bonus. I'd rather have the 20, in 2 days, the 25 barrels a day or 20 barrels a day back in production. It's worth more money.
Mr. Fox, how soon can you get it back on production?
We can have the first production running into the tank within 2 days. We just have to turn the propane on, and they're ready to go. It's going to take to get on one of the wells. We have the new separator, which we have already ordered, and that would have been set to, and it would be in operation too. But the rest of them will be on in just a matter of a couple of days.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Council?
What is the royalty rate?
I think they're 1/8 on there.
That's correct. Councilman Red Eagle.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to know how many wells is on this lease. That's all.
There's seven producers and one injection well.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman?
Yes, Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you, Chairman. Like what you were saying, Chairman, to, if we go to a new lease, 3-year, and the royalty, what did you say, at 1/8?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and then the bonus, I would be really good with that, and we can just move on. I mean, we've got to look out for, I know that the producers, and I also do want to say to Mr. Fox, sorry for your, I mean, you've had a lot of life challenges when you put investment, and then you had the car accident, and we sympathize with you, but we're in a very difficult time between now and September, and any extra we can get negotiate for our shareholders. I believe that's what we're sitting in these chairs to do. So with that, I mean, I would be in favor if that's the offer.
Councilman Rivard.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just ran some quick numbers. At today's really depressed prices, 22 barrels a day at $36 represents $3,000 a month income to our head right owners. If they were to pay $47.50 per lease, that's around $14,000 or $15,000. So basically, that's 5 months worth of production. That when you show compared to what the head right owners would receive. So we're looking at losing $3,000 a month if they're not able to produce these properties. And I just wanted to make that comment, just so everybody will understand what we're looking at.
Yeah, and just a comment on that. We've spent over $20,000 on it in the last 2 months, just getting getting it back in shape and filling up the fuel tanks and everything else.
Yes, sir. Council? Is there any other comments? Anyone like to make form of, yes?
Councilman Reaver?
Councilman Rivard.
I don't have anything to add right now.
Councilwoman Foreman?
Councilwoman Foreman.
I would like to make a motion to renew this lease for Renco at the existing royalty they had before their lease was illegally terminated, and for no bonus.
I second.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Foreman, seconded by Councilman Red Eagle. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. But her wording was to renew the lease. If we send the resolution over that says to renew the lease, she's gonna send.
Yes, the only correction we would actually have on the motion is a new lease, no renewal.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Second, are you okay with that?
Yes.
For clarification, we're talking about an oil and gas combination.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
What's that?
I'm not sure. Can you repeat that back?
I need what's the primary term and the bonus? 3-year bonus?
The motion says no bonus.
3-year, no bonus.
Yes, at all.
Okay.
Is that correct, everyone?
Yes.
May I ask Councilwoman Foreman, would she consider reducing the primary term to 1 year? Since they said they're ready to go, give them a 1-year lease instead of a 3-year. Let them get out there and get it going.
You sure?
You want to amend your motion?
Yes, I'll amend the motion to for a new lease at the existing royalty rate for 1-year term, no bonus.
I second.
And you agree to that, sir, a second?
Yes, I agree.
Any other discussion?
I just would make one more comment on it. We'll have a crew, I'll have the crew back to work out there tomorrow. So just if anybody's interested.
I will be very interested, or you'll be back on the agenda by Wednesday. I'm going to support you on it.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes,
I'm just, it's not really it's more of something I learned yesterday. I was talking to DEMD and they said by July, the forecast that they received, that it's going to, the price per barrel will be up a little, hanging over around $52. So I wish you best on getting re-engaged and getting that well up, and the oil and gas. So I'll be voting yes.
Thank you. I just want to comment. My understanding is also the studies that we've done that the oil price will be back up to $50 within the next 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know
Yeah,
whether it'll be that fast or not, but
yeah. We just got that from our federal partners at DEMD. They had just notified us that, so that's good news.
thank you. Call for a question.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Waller,
Yes,
Councilwoman Foreman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
and thank you, Mr. Fox. We understand this, during this element of a pandemic, we have had to look at everything. And with that being said, thank you, council. I'd like to go on down to the next agenda item.
okay, so I'm done. Thank you.
You are done. Just get back out in the field, and next Tuesday is a great day for us and you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your consideration, and we will make sure we get it taken care of.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You're dismissed, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Yes, I have a CMP project, Councilwoman Foreman.
Okay.
Councilwoman Foreman.
I was very glad to see Mr. Pipestem's email this morning with all the good news about our CMP project, and certainly will support all of that. My concern, and the reason I'm bringing this to the council today, is that this has taken a long time. We need to get drilling started, and this is one of the best things we've done since we've been in office. But we still have the procedures to hash out. Okay. And it's my understanding that the nation's already hashed out some of these. So we definitely need to be talking to them about what they came up with when they issue these credits. So in order to expedite the process, I'm going to make a motion that we create a task force that I'll be glad to either chair or be a part of. Anybody else is welcome to be on it, to focus on finishing this project up, where we can implement it and start working with our producers to share these credits and get wells drilled.
Council, any other comments?
Chairman.
Yes.
No, I agree with Councilman Foreman that we are very, very close to having this done. We had a conversation and negotiation again with Fish and Wildlife officials, and they were reasonable with us. I know that one of the Minerals Council clearly said that we don't want to have an acre minimum. So you'd have a 1 acre for 1 acre minimum. It has to be 1 acre unit. I think the answer to that is we now have a 0 acre minimum. So whatever we decide to do with, we will do, so it can be far more efficient in the use of that. There's still federal standards that Dan and Carrie can walk through with you about. They're standard for everybody, and some of them are a little bit stringent about permanent impacts, but I think that's it's not a specific thing to us. So, but generally speaking, I think we're in a great position to finish this, do press releases, celebrate this, and create our own certificate where we can allow people, have our own ABB certificate that covers what the superintendent needs to issue a drilling permit. Now, that being said, there's part of this I want to discuss in executive session that I think we need to make sure the council understands all of the implications of it. So before we take action on it, I recommend that.
Yes, we will move the discussion on into to executive. I wanted that to be talked to, and then we're going to have another amendment, 6580, which you're going to discuss. And then I have one request of Councilman Redcorn on another item on the CARES Act. I'd like to have it in executive, please. Council, is everyone good with that? We'll move on down to Mr.
I have a question.
Yes.
So we have a motion on the floor. Was Mr. Pipestem suggesting that he give us his update before we proceed with this motion?
Yes, yeah, I mean, there's a number of things about this that we learned in this negotiation that I think the council should be fully informed on before you make a decision and pass the resolution.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That's it. You didn't have a second.
It was just to create a task force, but I'll take it off the table and we'll discuss it and then we'll handle it.
It's for action today. This wouldn't be delaying past.
Okay, that's fine.
With that, I'd like to go on to the well plugging committee recommendation. Councilman Revar, please.
Thank you, Chairman. We held a well plugging committee meeting on June the 2nd. And we had Candy Thomas attended along with several of the committee members. And as a result of the meeting, we have we had voted on proposing 4 resolutions to bring to the full council. The subject of the resolution sent to our staff, and they're prepared and they're online on Board Book It with a couple of exceptions. One is that there are 2 that deal with the RFQ for the field inspector.
Yes, sir.
I think we can reduce that to 1. And the resolution, there's one resolution that was not on Board Book It. So I'll start with that one.
Please.
On Board Book It is a list of emergency wells to be plugged that the superintendent has already acknowledged that classification of emergency wells. So, well, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. But since I've already mentioned that, let's go ahead and talk about it. One of the resolutions is to approve the emergency well plugging list. And the list didn't make it on Board Book It under this meeting, but it is on our Board Book It for the committee meeting that we held June the 2nd. So if our host could go to the previous meeting, there's a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, I think is named emergency well list. We could pull that up. That is if you all think you all want to see the list of the wells. It's a list of several wells that have already been deemed to be emergency wells, and it's the first wells we want to start plugging. And there's a resolution for us to accept that list, approval to plug those several wells.
Councilman Revar?
Yes.
That's already been vetted to your committee. I'm ready for a motion and second it on your listing.
Okay, so my motion is to have a resolution presented here to the full council to approve the emergency well plugging list.
I second.
Yes, I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Revar, second by Councilwoman Foreman to accept the plugging list. I did review it, and I'd like to call for the question.
We have no opportunity to ask questions?
Yes, well, does she have her hand up? Okay, well, I'm sorry. Now,
Okay.
Councilwoman Gray, discussion.
Yeah, Councilman Rebar, you said you had this meeting on June 2nd, and is the agenda and the minutes and stuff, just so I can go back and review some of this? I mean, it sounds like you guys got a lot of work done. You got 4 resolutions out there.
The meeting was recorded, I can say that. I don't know where to go view that, but
Okay, well, I
it
mean,
was recorded.
You all
well,
didn't
if you
run
can
it?
send me that recording, I'd appreciate it.
Yes,
I don't know
please.
the staff could do that. I don't know how to do that.
Yes, we'll take care of that.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't see where it was posted, so I'm sorry I missed listening in.
It's in past meetings. You just go to past meetings. Go to meetings icon.
Thank you.
Tolly.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
go right ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I apologize. I was just now able to get into the meeting, so welcome everybody. This four resolutions, including this one, I think is long overdue, and I think it's really good work from Paul Revard and the team, the well plugging committee. And I would encourage us to get started on this because it's kind of way overdue. We got to start spending that $3 million, start attacking these wells. So I think it's a really good plan, and they had a great meeting, and I'm for this, ready to vote.
I concur.
I
Councilman,
might want to amend my resolution or my motion.
yes, sir.
Just, I don't think, and this is up for discussion, of course. These are wells that are identified out of the 700 plus wells that the Orphan Well Committee has determined that need to be plugged. And there are probably going to be more in the future. These are just the most obvious emergency ones. And I'm bringing this to the full council's attention in asking for approval to plug these wells. But I think I'd like to also ask the resolution to state that the well plugging committee will have approval in advance so that they can add additional wells to this list as they deem most serious requiring plugging. It's where, to avoid having to come to the mineral council meeting every 2 or 3 weeks to add 1 or 2 more wells to this list. I'm asking for approval of this list and granting the well plugging committee as a whole to unanimously vote to add an additional emergency well as the committee members evaluate and deem it an emergency well. So that's my amended resolution. Or motion.
Second, are you good with that, Councilman Foreman?
Yes, I second.
Okay. I think what they're really asking is that under this short-range plan, this resolution states that once they finish it and plug a well, that they're allowed to bring in its replacement. So we always keep that listing available. I don't have any problem with it.
We're just to give them power to determine what wells need to be plugged.
Yeah, they already have it.
Okay.
Thank you, but I do understand that. Council, any other discussion?
Well, would it, I didn't quite hear what Lacey said, but maybe the amendment should say we have the authority to select the future wells that need to meet plugging by this resolution. I don't want to muddy the waters.
You don't have to. That's exactly what I'm saying. I actually responded that you already have that right.
Okay.
And you're vetting it through your committee, that's the request we have. So if it can make it to your committee, then it can go through us.
Okay.
What was that proposed language change, Councilman Revard, that you're just gonna automatically, you're putting a paragraph in there or a line that says automatically adding as you are there researched, or what is that wording? Just so I'm clear.
Okay, I'd like to.
I agree with, I agree with you. I just,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, I'd like the motion to read that the full council agrees that the well plugging committee is authorized to take any of those wells on the 700 well list that have already been identified by Chairman Redcorn's orphan well list, that we can add those wells. We have approval to plug those wells at a committee level and not have to come before the full council every time we want to add one well to plug.
Or an emergency element, which, you don't have on your list. I think that needs to be available too, where you can add that in. We got it. We're ready to go. If you'd like to call for the question. Yes, please.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Waller,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Redcord.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Councilman Revard, next resolution.
Thank you. Okay. We also voted as a committee on a budget that Candy Thomas required of our committee, having to do with the $3 million funds that were appropriated from the United States Congress. And don't get this confused with previous grants. This is
That's
not
correct.
There is a budget on board book it, but there's no resolution. The resolution didn't get on board book it. So the budget did. So I'll go over the budget. It's brief and simple, and we can discuss it at whatever length you want. But the budget consists of $3 million total. And as we already know, according to what Congress appropriated, we have to spend $1.25 million on emergency wells, $1.25 on non-emergency wells, and the remaining $500,000 can be spent at our Osage Mineral Council's discretion, having to do with the plugging of wells. So we've got the $3 million total. We have a $50,000 salary and wages column and a $20,000 benefit to go with that. That is earmarked for our Osage Mineral geologist to assist in the oversight in plugging of these wells, in communication with our field inspector that we will hire to do these. It'll be his coordination. We'll get into the scope of work where I can describe more about what that position will entail.
I read it. I'm ready for motions.
70,000 is going to that. 10,000 is going to maybe attending some meetings and seminars and stuff like that. 50 grand worth of rental equipment that may be required from time to time. And there's 2,860,000 is just going to the contractors that'll be doing the work and the field inspectors' wages, whatever that's determined to be. Then there's $5,000 worth of anticipated equipment that might need to be purchased in the future. And that's the total budget. So my resolution, my motion that was unanimously approved by the full plugging committee is that this full entire Osage Mineral Council adopt a resolution to approve this $3 million budget that has been blessed by by Candy Thomas.
I second.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Revard, second by Councilwoman Foreman. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call for your question.
Oh, I do. I have one.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Are you gonna, is it still Tolly that's gonna be overseeing the direction of Mr. Lynn, or will that be you now, since this is out of your committee?
With regard to thank you for the question. With regard to the plugging of the wells, Mr. Lynn will be answering to me and the entire committee.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
What, I have is this a consultant agreement that you got with Mr. Lynn? Just want to make sure, because I know we did it the other way too.
Whatever might satisfy Ms. Thomas, I think would be what we would do.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Well, can I, Chairman?
Yes, go right ahead, sir. We discussed this. Go right ahead.
Okay, awesome. Councilwoman Gray, the monies for EOR grant plus this, we're putting toward Bill Lynn's salary. So he's not going to be on contract. It'll be salary kicking in.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, the reason I asked this is because we're getting ready to go into making changes to our, our annual budget, our FY21. And I just appreciate that we know that that funding will come from grant funding. So when I'll make those changes on for our
Projected
meeting
budget.
next week.
Not just grant, yes, maybe from the EOR grant that Councilwoman Redcorn mentioned, but also this $3 million appropriation. So it's not a grant, but yes, it seems like between these two funds, even though they're different, it seems like these two funds could cover the salary that for our geologists, at least the majority of anyway.
80%. We're fine.
80 or 90? Okay, and that covers his indirect costs too, just so that I'll know that for next week, because had I not known that, then it would have been when I had it.
That's why we're here today.
All right,
Yes,
I gotcha.
Okay.
Just got to ask the questions.
Yes.
Council, like call for the question?
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Waller,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray.
Yes.
Did she say yes? Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Councilman Rebar, next motion, please.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. We have a resolution to approve the scope of work. And that is basically the description of what our geologists will be doing with regard to the plugging of these wells, and the field inspector who will eventually be contracted with to oversee the physical plugging of these wells out in the field. So there's a scope of work that on our board book, it lists exactly what they'll be doing. And the field inspector will be reporting to the geologist, and they both will be reporting to me as the chairman of the well plugging committee. And I will be taking any and all issues that arise from those communications to the full well plugging committee attention on a regularly scheduled plugging committee, which I think should be probably every 2 weeks, have a plugging committee. It may be emergency ones if something arises, but so my motion is to approve the scope of work.
I'll second it.
For these two positions.
Yes, sir. I second that because I reviewed both projects, and they were comparable with what we had next door.
Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
We kind of had this same concept going on in Orphan Well.
Yes.
And it was really, when we started doing the swab tests, and it was very instrumental to have this individual in the field, keep
boots on the ground.
It works well, and I think it's a great scope and great plan. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Chairman, this
Yes.
is Councilman McGray. So on the field inspector job, also on the word description is misspelled, needs an S in there, DESCRIPT. So I just want to make sure this one is under the grant, and this will be a contract employee.
No.
It'll
Not
be
employee. That's two different things. No, it will be there'll be somebody that will contract.
Contract only. Okay, that's what I need. Okay.
And it may not be just one individual. It could be, one of there may be 3 or 4 people that would qualify under our RFQ that we'll get to next, that we can call upon to oversee this out in the field. It could be that we have 3 well pluggings going on at the same time, and this one guy can't be at both at once. We'll have a little pool of qualified personnel to be the field inspector. So after this resolution, we can talk about the RFQ for this position.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that answer.
Call for the question.
Chairman Waller,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
It'd be loud.
He's gone. There he is.
Councilman.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yeah.
Councilman Revard.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Councilman Revard, number 4.
Yes, thank you. Finally, and I appreciate your all's patience. On board booklet, there's 2 resolutions for an RFQ. I think that we can eliminate one because I think the second one kind of covers both. It's for this position. It'll go to Tammy Leeper with the Osage Nation. It's for approval of this position of the Inspector General to meet their criteria. And the only one is having this position for non-emergency wells, while the other one is for non-emergency wells and emergency wells. So my motion is that we approve initiating the process for the RFQ procurement through the Osage Nation.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Council, any other discussion?
Call for the question.
Call for the question, please.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Revard,
Yes,
Chairman Waller.
Yes.
Motion passes.
that's all I had, Chairman.
Thank you. And while I have Councilman Redcorn on the phone, did this cover those items that we had discussed?
Yes. Again, this is kind of a follow through from the grants. Plus, we're looking at other areas of, in case there's some areas where we do have opportunity. There's the economics look good. We're looking at that to go ahead and produce this as we discussed last time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And also, I have your other request. We'll discuss it in executive and then come out and see what we need.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Revard.
Councilman Revard.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to add, and I want to compliment Miss Candy Thomas for her input and participation with our well plugging committee. I saw how well she worked with Councilman Redcorn with the orphan well, and she's doing the same likewise for our plugging committee. But one subject that came up, and I'd just like to share with you all, is that what happens if we're getting ready to go plug a well that's on the emergency well list, and all of a sudden we realize this well probably shouldn't be plugged. It looks like it could be a commercial well. Maybe it started to kick off flowing oil on us, and we might want to stop at that point and reevaluate that. But that's not what this plugging money's for. So I addressed that with her, and she said there would be no problem with, if we got to that point on a certain plugging, that we could stop and reevaluate, maybe get some help from the DEMD or maybe the EOR committee to take a second hard look at this well and then move on to the next plugging. So she was acknowledging that that is a possibility, that we might go from a plugging to a producer, and at some point the funding out of this $3 million appropriation would have to cease. And from that point on, if we were to do anything else with the well, it would have to come from another source of funds and not this 3 million. So that was acknowledged and clarified. And it is a real possibility that it probably will happen at some point. I just wanted to share that with you.
Can't wait. That would be perfect. The other comes up is that we do want to thank her for the help, not only on the plugging, but the EOR and the fundamental effort of trying to gel these items through us, the nation, federal government. Councilman Revar, is there any other resolutions that we need to take care of at
No,
this
but
time?
one other comment, I'm sorry, the last one is that this, once we blow through this 3 million, and I think we'll really get aggressive as soon as we get that RFQ, we can apply for this appropriation again, but I think we have to do it in October. So what I'd like to see happen is for us to have a lot of success, get a lot of these wells plugged, and hopefully really cheap, and make this money go a long ways. They kind of get burned through it with some really good success, so that when we do go back to Congress, and I'm talking about the United States Congress,
Yes, sir.
that we can ask for another 3 million and have a little track record when we do the second time.
I do want to say this, compliment on that effort alone. Senator Cole is where we have got our budgeting out of the BML reclamation dollars. And that's exactly who we will go the same process. The last time I was there with Mr. Pipestem, I believe that some of us should go back up there accordingly. Thank you. Yes.
Chairman, I have my hand up.
Councilman Red Eagle.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate on Paul's point, Councilman Revard's point. I've been out in the field with Bill Lynn and several others at times over the last 2 years, and we've run into constantly, not constantly, but often enough, we run into wells that Bill's an oil man, you know. He's worked for a major oil company. He said they are wells out there that we could, instead of plugging them, could produce oil. So it's really a good point. And you know, in these particular times we're in right now, you know, it really makes good sense that point is well taken, because you know, if we can produce a couple of these, even 2 or 3 of these wells that are basically said to be plugged, why not? You know, and it's more production for our shareholders and make everybody happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we ready for Mr. Fletcher? Council, I'd like to go on to the next new business items, PE Osage. Mr. Fletcher, is he available?
Yes.
Thank you. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Hopefully you guys received our presentation. Apologize for getting it out late yesterday.
You look good.
We have recently purchased a producing lease here in March 4th. Our timing wasn't the best, but that's part of it. This is a lease that was initially drilled back in the early 1900s, 1912, if I remember correctly. The there's 6 quarter sections that are contiguous. Then there's what is referred to as the long lease. That is a gas lease that is northwest of Avant, where they've laid a transfer line, which is probably about 9 miles by the crow flies. And they were transferring gas to run gas engines for their vacuum system, plus the old power system. And they also use some of that gas to re-inject into the reservoir to maintain bottom hole pressure.
Yes.
This lease has been produced a tremendous amount of oil. It's a little north of 10 million barrels. We're the third owner in 100 and, call it 20 years plus or minus a little bit. We're extremely excited. Feel like that there's a lot of oil left there, a lot of things to go do. The last owner, you know, let some infrastructure deferred maintenance items go.
Yes, they
Um,
did.
and we've been knocking that out over the last, call it 70 days since we've taken over. And you know, we felt like gas injection was a key driver here, and think we've identified probably a 15 barrel a day drop on one portion of the lease. We have relayed those injection lines. We have um, done a little work on the injection wells and got those back going. They are taking gas again. A little too early to see if we'll see a benefit, but definitely think we're heading in the right direction. What we are asking for today is just to unitize this lease. And the reason we would like to do that is it allows us, allows us to use some of the facilities and share the facilities easier among the leases. Um, we are going to have to spend some significant dollars on the vacuum system because of deferred maintenance. And there was a lease, what was referred to as the Santa Fe lease. It's the south part of the lease. That vacuum system's been down since the mid 80s. And if you go back and look at the curve, it was producing about 50 barrels a day before that, or while that vacuum pump was running. Today it's producing a barrel or two a day. So there's a very big delta there to go get, but that's, you know, that's probably $150,000 expenditure for us to
At
go
least.
get that. So anything we can do to help mitigate that by sharing facilities is, you know, especially in these times, makes it significantly easier. We are not. This lease is a sixth lease. Um, what other items should I point out?
Yes, Councilman Revard.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Fletcher, are all the leases have the same royalty?
Yes, sir.
And are any of them consolidated with each other, or each one of them each individual leases?
I believe there are a couple right now that are. I believe there are 2 quarter sections that are reported as consolidated leases
On the west side.
And they have historically used an allocation that I'm not going to sit here and tell you. I doubt it's very, very accurate. I'll probably put it that way.
Well, let me ask you this, in that regard, how many tank batteries are there when you bought it?
Right now there's 3.
3 tank batteries, so some of them have to be consolidated.
Yes.
You know, that's a given. So I understand completely the reasoning why you would want to consolidate these leases. As far as royalty to the tribe, I could it doesn't affect our royalty other than by consolidating them, you might be able to improve your production. But my concern is, I'd be totally in favor of considering this a blanket consolidated lease. But I don't even think it's our authority to do that. I don't know that you need our authority to consolidate the lease. I think that really comes down to basically a reporting issue with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I think you just need to get the superintendent to acknowledge the leases as consolidated. And I've asked this question of the superintendent before, and I was told that all you have to do is ask for it and to be consolidated. But I would be in favor of a motion to have a resolution to support your desire to consolidate your leases. I just don't think I'm just questioning whether or not it's really even necessary. That's the only comment I have.
I'll second that. Chairman, I'll second that.
Yes, I have a motion by Councilman Revard, second on Councilman Redcorn. Yes, Mr. Fletcher, go ahead.
I guess to respond to that, Mr. Rivard, at least my understanding on the consolidation leases, we're still responsible to make, you know, our best estimates on those allocations. And all those forms we file with the BIA are, under perjury, which, we don't take too lightly. Um,
Nor should you.
the I, yeah, part of it for us as well is it eliminates some of that internal hassle, if you will. Um, you know, what I care about is how much we're producing out of these 7/4 sections, not, the 3 barrels come from the southwest and 6 barrels comes from the southeast. Um, our goal is to get this thing back up to 75 barrels a day. I think that's going to take a little time, but I think we can definitely do it. Um, so, and I'm a little concerned, at least from my discussions with them, there's a difference between the unitized lease. All the reporting's different than the consolidation. We do eliminate what I'm going to call the internal allocations, which, the accountant in me, I just don't like those because I don't care how hard you try, they're never accurate. But I do hear you, and I to go have those discussions with them. Like I say, I could be wrong in that scenario.
The division order will take care of all that. Councilman Revard.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. For the benefit of my fellow council members that might not be this familiar, the consolidation of a lease is just allowing the producer to utilize a common infrastructure, including the tank battery. With reporting of the production, it's like Mr. Fletcher said, under oath, you are to report what each one of those quarter sections produce. If one of them is not producing, that lease will terminate. If that minimum royalty hadn't been met on one of his 6 leases,
That's
that
correct.
lease will terminate. And the Bureau of Indian Affairs, probably understaffed, does have field inspectors that go out and monitor what wells are producing and which ones aren't, just as the Gopher Oil situation. They just, randomly go check on wells. And so the superintendent does do a little spot checking to make sure each quarter is producing. And I'll say this too, as far as estimating how many barrels came from this quarter and how many barrels came for that, the producers, they know far better than anybody what each one of their wells do. When they have a well down, they know they lost a well, and they've lost a well, went down. If they lost 3 barrels a day,
Yes.
they pretty much have a suspicion of which 3 barrels that came from, and they run out there and try to get it back on. Maybe it's a flow line leak and you got oil running down the road. But so the producers, they're not just guessing when they do the consolidated production report. Basically, instead of sending in a production report for each individual lease, they're asking for permission to put all 6 of them listed individually on one form, and they allocate this much came from this quarter, this much came from that, and so forth. And they're pretty good estimates that the producers know. And so I just wanted to clarify that and to educate those that might not be familiar with that particular process of what he's asking us to do and why he wants it.
Yes, Mr. Fletcher.
I think the one other thing that you brought up a good point there, Mr. Rivard, about wells and quarter sections. On this particular lease, every producer has a vacuum on the backside. We are re-injecting some of that gas to help keep that pressurized. I believe in the future we will begin testing, where does it make the most sense to inject gas now, and that'd be the one benefit of a unitized lease is, if we have 1 or 2 wells on a quarter section, which is the case on the fringes, that may be the best place to inject gas. But if we had to keep them producing and say, most of these wells out here will make anywhere from a barrel to a barrel and a half. There's, from what I can tell you right now, based on the testing we've done, there's
He froze
4
up.
and 7 barrels a day. So it's obviously our goal is trying to convert some of these that are making 1 barrel a day more like 4 to 7. And with that unitized lease, that does provide more flexibility on gas injection and where you can go. Much similar to a water flood.
Very similar. Councilman,
Chairman, I had my hand up.
Councilman Redcorn and Councilman Gray.
Thank you, Chairman. You know, we do go through this exercise a lot. I'm always in favor. Our check, if we're doing something right or wrong, is the BIA. And I hear a lot of times that we try to figure out what their duties are. What I think we should do is, if this thing seems reasonable, that this gentleman thinks he can bring this up to 75 barrels a day, that's as good as we need to go. If Robin doesn't like it and sees something there, she'll come back and tell us. I don't think we need to try to figure out the steps of the BIA, only that if this thing has value. So that's why I think, you know, she'll tell us. Robin and her crew will tell us if there's some legalities going on or there's some rules that we need to consider that we can't do this. That's our check. But I don't want to kill something, you know, let them do their work and tell us if it's not possible and then tell us how to get it to possible. So I'm in favor of this, and I call for the question.
Councilman Gray.
Yes. Thank you. My question is, so what we're asking for is him to go to ask to get a blanket lease from the BIA to the superintendent. Is that what I'm hearing? What you said?
Consolidation.
Yeah. Okay. Consolidate. And then like what Councilman Redcorn was saying, then if she's our checks and balances as our trustee, he'll come back and say, well, he needs to do X, Y, and Z.
That's correct.
And we have someone who's trying to get 75 barrels a day. I think the sooner that he finds this out and the sooner he gets back to us, whether it's good, a consolidated lease, blanket lease will work for him. But I don't want to slow this down because this is a whole different ballgame compared to what we were doing on Gopher. Gopher was 0.3 of a barrel. This is 75 barrels a day. So we want to be assistance to Mr. Fletcher in any way we can.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Call for the question.
Before we do that, can we please read the legals into this?
Yes, we need the legals read into the resolution.
Would you like me to do that?
Yes.
I'd be happy to. The subject leases for this resolution is the northeast quarter of section 17, 23 north, 12 east, the northeast quarter of section 18, 23 north, 12 east, northwest quarter of section 2, and the northeast quarter of section 3 of 23 north, 11 east, the northwest quarter of section 17, 23 north, 12 east, the southeast quarter of 18, 23 north, 12 east, the southwest section of 17, 23 north, 12 east, and the west half of the southeast quarter section of 17, 23 north, 7 east.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready?
Anything else, dear? Call for the question, please.
Councilwoman Gray?
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan?
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn?
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle?
Second,
Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Councilman Rebar?
Yes.
I've been texting him. Chairman Waller?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman?
Yes, and we look forward to great success on this project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Mr. Fletcher, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next item I have is the amendment to HR 6580. And I believe we're going to have our attorney speak with us in the executive about it. and I'd like to send that into executive. I'd like to move on down to the drumkeeper resolution. We need this, so we're allowed to send the funding that the Osage Minerals Council gives to the drums of the Pawhuska, Gray Horse, and Hominy districts. We know that under a pandemic, we've held up first time in 150 plus years, and that we are targeting maybe at the end of the year. But I need this resolution. I'd like to make that in form of a motion. And is it and a second by Councilwoman Gray? Any discussion?
Yeah, just one clarification that, you know, we do allocate this each year in our budget. And so, you know, whether or not that the dances are held before the next fiscal year, at least this will cover if we are able to have our dances. I pray we do in mid-September or October, but this should cover them. And we do know that one of the things that they are challenged with right now is price of beef and pork right now. It's immensely high. So I just, I'm in favor of this.
Yes, Councilman Rivard?
Yes, thank you. I just have a question. That's $5,000 for each drum keeper. There's 3. I'm just curious, just because I don't know, and for my information, I'd just like to know, how do they utilize that? Is that to help cover expenses of of their annual dances, or what do they use that money for?
May I ask, I'd like to make a comment. That usually goes with the drumkeeper's family. It's for not only the $5,000 meal bills they get when they go in to get for their drums, their travel committees, or to take care of their committee dinners. Also, in this pandemic era, this has been requested, but of course, and I can speak on behalf of Omni, we are committed to keeping our traditions up even during this. We have to go back in and take care of our loved ones and our losses. So there is no requirement other than a drum function, and I'm only speaking on behalf of my committee. Council, anything you'd like to add?
Well, I just do we do that in some type of presentation to, you know, in a real honorable way, or do we just mail them a check?
We just mail them a check.
We just mail them a check. They're pretty happy about it.
Okay. Okay.
But I appreciate the other, sir. It is a commitment. I started this 20 years ago, and I think we ought to look at even going more. Same way on the committees. We're still giving funding to our villages as I put in 21 years ago. Thank you, Council.
I'm proud to be a part of it.
Thank you, sir.
Call for the question.
Call for the question, please.
Councilwoman Harlan.
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn. Councilman Redcorn.
Please continue.
Councilman Red Eagle.
Yes.
Councilman Rivard.
Yes.
Chairman Waller.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray.
Yes.
Motion passes.
On behalf of my committee,
Councilwoman Harlan, did you?
Yeah. She said
Yeah,
yes.
I voted.
Okay.
let me take care of this real quick. On behalf of my Hominy committee, thank you all. We just had some real losses, and so is Pawhuska, and so is Gray Horse.
Yeah.
Our hearts go out to them, and thank you, Council, on behalf of my Good Eagle family. I'm blood traditionalist. Can we take a short break and then get ready do we need an executive vote?
I agree.
Ma'am?
Do the executive vote and then take a break.
Yeah. I'd like to entertain a motion to go in executive and to take a short break and then come right
Make
back.
the motion, we go into executive and take a break.
I have a motion on the floor. I have a second by Councilman Ridden.
Second.
I have a second by Councilwoman Harlan. Call for the question, please.
Councilman Redcorn? Councilman Red Eagle?
Yes.
Councilman Rebar?
Yes.
Chairman Waller?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray?
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan?